I devoted 2 sections in my autobiography to talk about original setting because it was very programmatic in my life. It did affect a lot of the things that I did after that, and it shaped much of my journey. It was a journey that was punctuated by work and vocation and personal relationships. It began with a very strict bush code of never taking a backward step, never say die, and never give in. It created a whole lot of fiercely independent and sometimes difficult people, but we survived in the Australian outback. We made our way and we lived our life, and we were able to go on to do various things in our journey. I found the life in the little town where I was brought up, called Warren, somewhat limiting at times. Even as a child, I found it limiting. I didn't like the other kids at school very much. I found them too noisy and too raucous in a way about so many things, and I felt an outsider from the beginning. I didn't know then that I was really a standalone person. In other words, I would have to do it for myself. I wasn't alone in that sense of isolation in my own family life or anything else. Far from it. I was the eldest and I was treated with some favour, and I really cultivated that. I enjoyed that. But I found that in my life I had to cultivate something else. It was a deep need to learn more. My school only went to year 9, and I would eventually leave school at age 15. And yet people would stop me in the street and ask me how to spell words when I was about 8. I wrote stories to be read in the English class in my primary school, and I gave a great deal of attention to reading. My first book of any significance was a book called For the Term of His Natural Life, written by Marcus Clarke. And it was a story of a convict who came to Australia for a minor crime and had a tremendously difficult journey, and yet found some sort of freedom in the end in himself. It's a brilliant book, and we used to read it around the Australian bush at a campfire at night, even for people who couldn't read at all. And this was a significant book to read about people that I really knew something of around me all the time. And I wanted to communicate something of that early journey and how it affected me, and the great stress put on integrity and learning how to be a real person, and thinking that integrity was as precious as life itself, and that if it was lost, then in a sense the person who was behaving in that manner would be lost. I was also a child who would get through the grey slatted fence near my school when others were playing in the playground, and I would get through the fence and I would go into the church and sit and wonder about what happened in the past, because the walls were decorated with plaques about war heroes and people who had done things and how they were able to overcome in their journeys.